Hello everyone and welcome to another video by Centipede Geek. Today in this video, this is part 2 of my book discussion videos over the book titled Red Rain by the author R.L. Stine. Now, if you remember in my first video, I talked about the first 21 pages of the book. I talked about the consensus of it, my consensus of it, the plot, pretty much an overall overview of what the book's about, and some history on the author R.L. Stine, famous for doing Goosebumps and Fear Street and stuff like that. So now in this video, I've read roughly a little over 50 pages since my last video, and I'm going to talk about pages 21 through pages 75. So currently I'm on chapter 16 in the book, page 75. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started on part 2 of my book discussion for the book Red Rain over R.L. Stine. Remember to watch part 1 before watching part 2, otherwise you'll be terribly confused. So let's get to it. Last time we had our character Leah Sutton, the main character in this book. She's off the coast of the South Carolina beach on this island where the book takes place, or at least this event, and she's watching the ceremony. And in the ceremony, remember, they drank this black liquid that made them vomit and then collapse in their own vomit. Well, remember how I said we thought this was a charade, we thought this was fake, we thought this wasn't real? Well, in fact, it's not a charade at all. It is real, and it is very legit, real as real could be. These characters have died in the book, died from drinking this black liquid. So now this priest walks in the middle of them, and he starts to chant in the French language. He says, Revenir, Revenir, Revenir. And forgive me if my French isn't fluent. I don't fluently speak French at all, so oh well, right? So he chants Revenir, and these characters in the book all of a sudden start to come back to life. They rise from the dead after chanting after he chants his chant. That's it. That's what happens. Pretty crazy, right? So now the ceremony is over, and the hurricane that happened previously in the book is now actually starting to come to pass, and the wind's starting to blow, rain starting to pick up, the trees are starting to whistle and that sort of thing. So Leah Sutton goes and stays with Martha Swan. And while there, the roof collapses, actually. I'm kind of having to do a rundown. If you want to know all the main details, you have to read the book yourself. But anyways, the roof ends up collapsing. Some shingles hit her head. And she's now, she had a blackout, and she wakes up the next morning. And she's worried about whether or not her kids are okay. Because some new characters were also introduced. Her husband, Mark, we found out, is an author. He has a similar job to hers, but he's an actual author, and he writes controversial books, and his first controversial book is called Kids Will Be Kids, and it's a parenting book, and he believes, his theory on parenting is that parents should be less involved in their kids' life, and kids should be able to live more individual lives and make decisions on their own, and that parents should not be parents, but they should be more like friends to their children. He does believe parenting is necessary, but he says less parenting is actually better parenting. So he wrote this very controversial book. He's doing a book signing at a bookstore in East Hampton, in a nearby town. He's always away from home. Leah Sutton is also always away from home because she has to travel to write her adventure and travel blog. So they're both always away from home. So Mark's sister, Roz, we also met, and Roz Sutton, and she is actually a nanny to the kids. By nanny, I mean she takes care of the kids. Well, in her past, she actually had an abusive husband, so she actually now lives in a guest house off behind Mark and Leah's house, and she takes care of Leah and Mark's kids, and their names are Ira and Alina. And then Roz also has a kid of her own, though I forget his name. He's very young, like 2 or 3 years old. And Ira and Alina, I think one of them's in like the 7th grade, and then I think one of them, is just a few years older. I think one's like 14, and the other one's like just a few years younger. I forget the exact ages though. So anyways, we have Mark, who's the husband. We have Roz, who that's his sister, and we have Ira and Alina, who is Mark and Leah's kids, and then we have Roz's little son by the age of 2 or 3, and she lives in a guest house off behind their house. These are the characters that have been introduced. And like I said, while the hurricane is coming to pass, and while she has had a blackout, he's giving his book signing over at a book place, and we also met a girl by the name of Autumn Holiday. Peculiar name, right? Autumn Holiday. Anyways, it's an old friend. She's like 23, I think. It's an old friend of Mark's. And pretty much what happened was he did the book signing, and now he's off back at home, back with the kids. He decided that this was his last place on the tour, and he needed to be home for a while. Autumn Holiday asked him if he wanted to go for a coffee or for a drink or something, and he said no. He was tempted though. So that may have not have gone over too well. Cheating or something may have happened, and it might very well happen later on, but I don't think so. You never know, right? So anyways, now it went back to Leia, and this hurricane has now swept over the entire town, and she wakes up the next morning, the hurricane's over. And this is all the after effects of it. Well, they decide, Martha Swan, who she is now staying with, they decide to walk her back to the motel. She was the Starfish House motel that she was staying in. Well, when she walks back throughout the town, all these crazy things start to happen. A man confronts her and says, hey, help me. She's a little scared. What actually ends up happening is she ends up trying to help the man's wife, and they also have a kid, and they bring him over, and the man's wife that all of a sudden ran up to her is trapped up under the house, and she tries to pull in the arms, and a very horrific and terrifying thing happens. And when they try to pull the wife up out of the house, her leg gets ripped off actually, and now she's just one leg, and she ends up dying there in the husband's arms, and she doesn't know what to do. There's nothing she can do. There's nothing she can do to make the situation any better, so she just walks away. There's another woman she walks by, and this woman is carrying her two dead, lifeless babies' corpses, and she's just rocking them back and forth, saying, my babies are dead. And it's a very tragic and heartbreaking scene. It's just very sad what's going on in the after effects of the hurricane. And anyways, so she rocks all the way back across town. She's now at the beach, and there's all these dead starfish across the ground. And she has found out that Pierre and then I forget her name. Pierre's husband, not husband, Pierre's wife, the motel collapsed out from beneath them, and they're both dead. A nail struck Pierre through the eye, or it may have been the wife. One of them got struck with a nail through the eye. Very horrific and nasty and gruesome, grotesque scene. And now she has walked through the beach, and she wandered off from the ones who were escorting her to the beach. She wandered off because she's in this dazed state because of the horrific events of the hurricane. And like I said, she came across these two boys. Now we're at the events of the beginning again. She came across these two boys with the white cargo pants and, no shirt, and the blonde hair, the blonde shaggy hair, and the bright blue eyes. And they're actually talking. One of them is named Daniel, and the other boy is named Samuel. And they're just about the same age, I think. I think they're about the same age, though. And she's like, can I help you? And the Daniel boy says, Samuel doesn't talk much. Daniel says, it's all gone. And he keeps calling her Mum. I don't know why. It hasn't stated why yet. I don't know if it will, but he keeps calling her Mum. M-U-M. Not Mom, Mum. He keeps calling her Mom, and he says, all gone. He's like, can I escort you to your parents' house? And they say, no, our parents are gone, Mum. She's like, well, do you have any relatives? And, oh, it's all gone, Mom. And she's like, well, let's get you some better clothing. And, they say, we can't. Everything's gone. And she doesn't know what to do. And the last thing we heard from her, let's see if I can refresh myself. Yes, the last thing it says, she says, yes, I think I can help you. And remember how in the last video I said how I thought the boys were something sinister and horrific? Well, I think the boys actually might be innocent. It seems, for right now at least, they're innocent, and that they don't mean any harm to anybody. They're two helpless, innocent little boys, and all they need is a little help from someone that can give them what they need. And it seems like Leia Sutton might be the help that they need. And we also had a very weird thing happen. It wasn't weird. It was actually extremely heartbreaking, and I knew there was something about it. and that was we were introduced to a cop's character. I don't know if we'll see this cop again, but this cop is new to the city of East Hampton, and he's driving around in this car, and he is told to go to a certain house. And so he goes to this house, and he tells this family that the husband's wife is dead. Well, the way the author describes it is he doesn't tell you that the husband he's talking to is the main character in the book. He doesn't tell you it's Mark Sutton, but you can tell by the way he's referring to him. But all he describes is, a man with a beer in his hand. That's all he says. And then because his sister's right behind him. And he says, hey, your wife's been killed in the hurricane. He instantly drops his beer, and the beer spews everywhere, and the sister, Roz, starts to cry. Well, in fact, the police officer was mistaken because his wife's not dead because we're reading about her. He went to the wrong dang house. Stupid cop, right? Well, he is new, so we gotta cut him some slack. Anyways, that was a great way for R.L. Stine to trick the reader. He made you think Leia was dead, but in fact, the cop had just went to the wrong house, and I loved that about it. It was great. Let me see if there's anything else major that happened. There's a lot of minor things that have happened, but in order to get those minor details, you're going to have to read the book yourself, because it would take too long to discuss that. But like I said, what's happened so far is that the hurricane has now come to pass, and she is seeing the the raining blood, hence the name Red Rain. The raining blood is now raining over the coast of the South Carolina beach, and she's come across these two boys, and she just decided to help them because they need help. And right now, the cop's name, by the way, was Andy Pavano, and he was talking to another cop on the radio during this thing. And pretty much, if Mark and Roz are currently at the house, and he just thought his wife died, but in fact she didn't. So Mark is currently at his house. Leia's currently on the beach of the South Carolina East Hampton town, getting ready to help the boys out. This is where the characters currently are. So that's pretty much the events that have happened in the past 50 pages of R.L. Stine's Red Rain. Let me just glance through here to make sure that nothing else critical has happened. And then I'll give you my overall thoughts and where I think it might go. Excuse the awkward silence, I just have to make sure that there's nothing else critical. Oh, Roz's kid name is Axel. I just saw that on a page. And another thing, this wasn't really critical, but a lot of people were arguing with him at the book signing at the bookstore. A lot of people were arguing with him, not agreeing with his book, not a big plot point. And that's pretty much what's happened. So far, I'm really enjoying R.L. Stine's Red Rain. It's written in a way where it sucks you in, not from 50 pages in, but actually from the very beginning. I read 3 pages of this, and I was instantly captured, instantly sucked in, and I'm loving every second of it, every minute. It's like a vortex. You don't want to stop reading. This is one of those books where if I wanted to, it's so fascinating and so scary and so horrifying and sad and heartbreaking and intense of a book and so great of a book that I almost want to read it overnight. But I'm trying to take it slow. I'm trying to, progress myself in a slow manner so I can enjoy it more and enjoy it for a longer amount of time. But anyways, it's great so far. I'm really enjoying it. I love it. It's great, good stuff. I think I'll read you just a few of my favorite quotes. My main thing I'm curious about is these two boys. These two boys are they're innocent, but there's something about them. Two boys just don't show up on a beach when an entire town's wiped out, and all that is left is these two little boys. Maybe there's a connection between them and the ceremony off the island. The main thing I'm curious about, like I said, is the two boys and then the ceremony about them collapsing and then being reborn. It's kind of like the old legend behind the town collapsing by the hurricane in 1935, and then I guess, they were risen back to life from the ceremony, and they rebuilt the town. It's kind of like that, you know. So maybe there's a connection between these two boys, and maybe these two boys are dead actually. You know, maybe like they were re-brought back to life or something. I have no idea. But anyways, very curious about the ceremony. Very curious about the two boys. Maybe there's a connection of some kind. No way to make sure. Anyways, there's like some dark and kind of quirky humor. One of those parts is, I have it memorized, so I don't even have to look at it. He sees this girl, Mark Sutton, is at the book sign, and he sees this girl that he knows. Her name's Autumn Holiday. Remember, Mark Sutton is in his like late 30s. He's like 37, 38, 39 years old, somewhere around their late 30s. And he sees an old friend of his, and she's like 23 years old, a lot younger, and she's all dolled up. By that I mean, she looks all nice and pretty and beautiful. And all of a sudden, he starts to check her out, and he says, and it's written in a very random manner, like very, very random, but I loved it. It was very funny. And he's all, she has nice. He says she has nice tits. How come I've never noticed? Because she's 23, maybe, and that's exactly what he says. And it was written in a very funny manner and very random. Like he was in the middle of talking, and all of a sudden you see what he's going on inside of his thoughts. And I love that. It's kind of like, that's what Douglas Preston says. It says real characters, crisp writing, and a wicked sense of humor. And that's what he means by his, it's kind of a strange and quirky and wicked sense of humor. So I can see that now. That's an example of that. And also about the whole, remember at the beginning with the red rain falling over her? She thought it was not only horrifying, the red rain, but she also thought it was fascinating. So, kind of, you're like, huh. Think to yourself, if a hurricane happened and red rain, like blood, was falling on you, would you think it was fascinating? Let me know on the comment board below. Anyway, so I'm really enjoying this. This is a really great book, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go, what's up with the two kids, what's up with the ceremony, and right now I'm anticipating every page and every moment of this book. I'm sucked in like a vortex, and I don't want to put it down. If you guys need a recommendation of a good adult horror novel to read, R.L. Stine's Red Rain is definitely worth a pickup. Just came out last month in October. So anyways, once again, thanks for watching. Thank you for my subscribers. See you guys on part 3 of my book discussion of R.L. Stine's Red Rain. I don't know how many pages I'll read, but I'll probably at least read a good 20 or 30 pages. And by that time, I'll probably be on page 100 or something. Somewhere around then, maybe even further. And maybe we'll have some clue to the ceremony and stuff. But right now, I don't have too many questions. This is one of those books, it's not hard to follow at all. Some books are hard to follow, kind of confusing. This one is not hard to follow. It's not confusing. And it's very suspenseful. Right now, with the whole hurricane thing, it's very heartbreaking. It's one of the saddest books I've read in the past few years. Very bloody, just cool stuff. Anyways, once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later with another book discussion, part 3, over R.L. Stine's Red Rain. See you guys.